Just ahead of Rockin Company's Rockin CU, we'll tell you about the folks who are 5 decades, 2 generations, artistic rock masons, and also they do a lot of government work, the stuff that isn't all that fine stonework. Talking with Scott Davis, we were at the Rockies game together recently, who is the high school state weightlifting champion out of Brighton, college roommate of John Hessler up at CU. Scott was a 165-pound champion in weightlifting, but Rockin Company having a good. You've seen all their fine work around town, including the setting for the horses that gallop up into Miles High Stadium, that water feature there at Mile High on the south end. But they're up in Jeffco on my old stomping grounds, Twin Spruce Road and Coal Creek Canyon, helping the roadways that were washed away in the flood a couple of years back and hastily patched. Now the permanent work is going on there. Chautauqua Park, they're aiding the city on drainage for torrential rains, replacing the look of the old stone masonry from the 20s and 30s there, following the patterns with native stone. In Chautauqua Park, they're also helping with the rock retaining walls there as the city is adding a sidewalk, increasing pedestrian access to that park. So they're helping with some important community stuff there. Chatfield Drive, the historic drainage structure on the old Forestry Road out there. Lone Tree and Promenade, and Promenade Park, they're doing fancy stone masonry there on a bridge underpass. And in Glenwood Springs, the CDOT project, reconstruction of the Grand Avenue Bridge using historic red sandstone to match the rocks of the hot springs. Rockin Company, check them out at rockinco.com, and they have their own quarry to get their own rock out. So right now, it's time for Rockin Company's Rockin CU, also brought to you by Zadie's Deli. When you eat delicious food, you want generous portions. In Cherry Creek, it's Zadie's Deli, free parking front and back, 121 Adams Street, and they cater. And everybody I take there, like Paul from Toyexis, Paul Jones, loves it and goes back. You will too. And Adam, good morning. You're boots on the ground covering the Oregon game up there for Colorado.
Yeah, I'm actually parked right by the Willamette River, ready to go for a run here around Portland, and then we'll head out to Eugene.
Well, you even got the name right, the Willamette River. They say it differently than most people who read a map would say it. And he is at AdamCM777 if you want to follow him. He is the publisher of BuffStampede.com. And I was ready to say, I have been ready to say, after the Michigan game when Colorado did everything but win that game when they gave up 21 points with punt problems, and we'll talk about that, no doubt, that this team, I've been teasing it, but I didn't necessarily believe it, but I was ready to proclaim this is the breakthrough fourth year for the new coach, Mac, that McCartney had back when he went 7-5 in 1985, and his fourth year after going 1-10 the year before. And that this team is ready. It's arrived. It is a good physical Pac-12 big-time team. But the problem is, I can't say that if Sefo Lufau is not the quarterback. What's your best guess? I know they're not announcing till game time.
Well, the good news there is that Sefo Lufau is not expected to be out for an extended period of time. I think most people were nervous just the way, knowing how tough Sefo is, and for him to get knocked out of a game, I think your initial thought was, well, this can't be good. This has to be a severe enough ankle sprain that's going to keep him out for a while. But, it's tough. Sometimes ankles can recover different on everybody. This is not a true high ankle sprain. McIntyre said it's kind of in between a high ankle sprain and a low ankle sprain. And he's been able to tape that thing up and do some work in practice this week, according to McIntyre. I have a feeling they're going to roll with Steven Montez today at quarterback. But, again, I think Sefo Lufau, I would be surprised if he's not back as a starter next week against Oregon State. We'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they take him up today and let him at least go test that. But it's kind of a dilemma. Do you really want to roll with a Sefo Lufau at 75% that could, those ankles, you can tweak them when they're in a fragile state like, Sefo's is right now. So it's a tough deal. Steven Montez, at least you got him some 1 reps this week in practice, so that should help. But good news, bad news. Sefo Lufau back pretty soon, but I wouldn't expect it to be today. We'll see.
Talking risk management, it sounds like you're saying that Montez, your best belief, Montez starts and Sefo does not come in relief because this was not a game they figured to win anyway. Why not live to fight another day because this wasn't one on the schedule that they figured to live. That made sense to me. This should be a very entertaining game, though. the kind of the godfathers of tempo football, up-tempo football, against the newer kids on the block, Colorado having tremendous success with their up-tempo offense.
Yeah, well, I do think, though, Michael, I think this is a game Colorado thinks they can win, even with Steve Montez. I genuinely think, given how bad Oregon's defense is, anybody goes into a game against them and thinks they has a chance. And obviously the way Colorado played out of the Big House last week gives you some reason for hope there. The tempo, I think, as good as Colorado's defense has been, aside from sometimes on the edge, not being able to contain that last week at Michigan, Oregon just has his way of getting teams into a track meet in the way Colorado's offense goes now. I expect this might be the most entertaining game on the Pac-12 slate today for that reason. I think even though Colorado's defense is pretty good, I still expect this to kind of get up there in terms of the score.
Adam, Mr. Klahr just mentioned the up-tempo idea. And here's a theory I want to throw out, and then you can support it or shoot it down. I think Oregon is really the team that Colorado wants to be. Eugene is Boulder. Eugene has trees, and Boulder has mountains. The population is not necessarily football-centric, but Oregon's built this dynasty, and everybody loves the Ducks. I think that's another reason why it would be such a key moment for CU if they could go to Oregon and beat Oregon. And I guess my question is this. If Oregon can build a dynasty, can CU get back to its glory days, or is there no relationship there?
Well, there's a guy named Phil Knight that Colorado doesn't have, and that's
you are
the big
right.
difference there. And frankly, let's be honest, is Oregon the dominant team that it was the last decade? If Phil Knight's not involved, I really don't think so. Now, Colorado's a Nike school, and they get some of the gear that the recruits like and all that stuff. But it's just tough. I remember coming out to Autzen Stadium for the first time and seeing their facilities and being blown away. And we get up to the press box, and you see this construction going on over in the corner. Ask somebody from Oregon, hey, what's going on over there? And they're saying, oh, those are the new facilities we're building. And I'm going, you need new facilities? And his comment was, yeah, they're going to build them because they can. That's just kind of the way that in Colorado it was not in that situation. Rick George had to be a rock star in terms of his fundraising for them to get those facilities, and they're amazing. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't one man just writing them a check. So it's a little bit of a different thing. But Colorado has not competed against Oregon since joining the Pac-12. There were times, you think back to the John Embry era, when Oregon they're naming their score, they're taking their starters out midway through the second quarter. They've already covered the spread at that point. So. It would definitely be a statement game without question if Colorado somehow pull off the upset. Well, another team they really want to get over the hump against is Arizona State. That's another team they haven't been able to compete with since joining the conference.
I think I've been predicting since this summer, as you know, that they will beat Arizona State here this year. Looking at that matchup again with Colorado and key injuries here, losing Derek McCartney for the season. My understanding is Oregon will not have their battering ram running back Royce Freeman today. But I don't think it matters a lot because he wasn't going to have a lot of success running into the center of the line, in my opinion, against Colorado, not with Tupou anchoring that line with Cafavallo and Carroll and the other guys there. So the problem becomes on the edge where Derek McCartney is now out for the season on one side. Jimmy Gilbert is still there. How much of a drop-off is there, and how much will it hurt Colorado? Because and it's primarily against the run. Oregon is not a passing team. They're a running team. How much does the three-headed monster replacing Derek McCartney fall off from Derek's production?
Yeah, I think you're definitely going to notice a difference there. NJ Follow, who was suspended the first 3 games, is now back in the mix, and I think that helps. But he's pretty green. He's a true sophomore, and he didn't play a ton last year, about 150 snaps. Now, the one thing I will say is that mitigates this loss a little bit is the fact that you're going to be, throughout your Pac-12 slate, aside from the Stanford game, playing pretty much nickel most of the time. And so you're only going to have one of those outside linebackers on the field at a time. And Jimmy Gilbert will certainly need to step up and take on even more of a role. He played quite a bit the first 2 games, but you're going to see him out there a ton. And then, you figure out maybe of those 3 other guys, which 1 or 2 of them gives you the best chance. And it might vary week to week based off their strengths compared to the strengths of the opposing offense. So, but the Derek McCartney, as McIntyre said, is their biggest, strongest, most physical guy in that role. And so I do think that's a loss. Now, I think losing Diego Gonzalez, the place kicker, could be even more of a big deal. We'll see how Chris Graham does in that role if he indeed did win the kicking competition. But that could end up being more of an issue than McCartney going down.
In our final minute, and we'll also mention, we'll get to this another time, Autzen Stadium voted an article you carrying on BuffStampede.com, tremendous website, number one stadium in the Pac-12 for the football experience. But Colorado, Folsom Field picked fourth. A little bit of respect there. Let's get your breakdown, your prediction on this game where Oregon is about a 10.5-point favorite.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a competitive football game. Even if Steven Montez is out there, he's got some physical tools. It was a tough situation he was put into last week. And I see this, I don't know if it's 42-41 Oregon. It is considered a track meet out here in Oregon for Colorado, and their defense it probably is. So I think it'll be a little bit more of a high-scoring game, but Oregon will edge out the Buffs here at the end.
Very good, and let's hope that they have absolutely solved the problem with punting and that not having a special teams coordinator but having everybody's hand in the pie doesn't burn the Buffs' chances for a major upset today on the road. Adam, great talking to you. Buff Stampede Must Reading. Talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, enjoy the game, and that was the Rockin Company's Rockin CU. 5 decades, 2 generations, historic and modern Masons, build it with rock, build it with Rockin Company, rockinco.com. Zadie's Deli. When you eat delicious food, you want generous portions in Cherry Creek at Zadie's Deli, 121 Adams Street, and they cater. Stay tuned. Safe Bet is next.